خالق الإنسان يا رب يا رحمن شكرا يا رب شكرا يا رب يا منزل القرآن يا خالق الإنسان يا رب يا رحمن شكرا يا رب شكرا يا ربي شكرا هديت قلبي شكرا نورت دربي.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحیم. السلام علیکم و رحمت الله و برکاته. دوستا و عزیزا، امروز تاریخ جولای 8 است سال 2018. در برنامه ما ژوندون یا زندگی در برنامه صدای حق هستین که ما خدا کنه که خوش باشین، آرام باشین و صحتمند باشین. او هفته که به برنامه آمده بودیم صحبت ما بود درباره mental health و چطور در افغانستان که افغانای ما چیز میکنن، کار میکنن، یعنی خود دولت یا خود دکترها که هست چند فیصد کمک که پولی که هست چقدر بخش یعنی روانشناسی میره. ما خودمون دیدیم و خودمون بهتون گفتم که بسیار کم است. از اون 289 میلیونش که هست $1,00,000 که هست بخش روانشناسیشان میره. خودتان هم دیدین خود مردم افغانستان که هست بسیار در تکلیف هست. روز به روز تکلیف ها بالاتر میشه. مردم هم که هستن زیادتر نمیتونه که چیز کنم، کمک زیادتر بین خود دوستای ما در افغانستان بتن، بازی خاطر که پیسه کم است و خود ما میفهمیم که به پیسه دولت یا به پیسه خود مملکت که است بسیار کم است. کمک شده نمیتونیم به دیگه افغانای خود. دوستا و عزیزا، این هفته که است میخوایم که بگویم که یک دوست ما بود تلفن کرده بود. او هفته گفت که اینمی برنامه را ما گفتم چیز میکنیم درباره جوانا چیز میکنیم، تشریح میکنیم که چطور جوانای اینمی روزا در اینمی خود خارج در امریکا یا در اروپا یا در خود افغانستان باشه، چطور مادر پدرها زیاد سختی داره یا زیاد سخت می باشه که اطفال خود کار کنن و که جوانای خود کار کنن. و اینمی برنامه ما که است، اینمی پروگرام این هفته که است درباره جوان است که چطور میتونیم که ما همکار شویم و دیگه خودتان هم مادر و پدرام که هستن بفهمین که چی سختی هست که خود اطفالتان یا دخترت باشه یا بچه‌ت باشه در زیر تاثیرات نمی خود جهان است که نمیتونه که شما شریک کنه. فرق میکنه در فامیلیم که ایتو مادر پدر است که میتونه که بچه ها دختره خود صحیح گپ بزنه. ایتو فامیلی است که هیچ نمیخواه بشنوه که چی سختی سرشان تیر میشه، مگر تنها بشان میگه که هر چیز که میشه شما باید زندگی خود اینمی تو ادامه بتین، یا آرام باشه یا سخت باشه. مگر مادر پدرام است که هیچ نمیخواه که چیز کنه، مشکلات خود که اطفال خود شریک کنه یا خود بخواه که اینمی مشکلات بچه و دخترشان باشه که وارم شریک کنه که کشان همکار شون. دیگه دوستا و عزیزا، میخوایم که در انگلیسی تشریح کنم که خود جوانام اگر ایرم میبینه و بتانه که اینمی چیزا را بشنوه در این برنامه ما امروز و بتانه که تلفن کنه یا خود مادر پدرام تلفن کنه یا خود مادر پدران نمیال کشیشتن که بفهمین که اینمی چیزا سر اطفال سر اولاد ما تیر میشه در زندگی و ما زیاد سرش تجربه چیز خود زیاد کشان کار نکردیم که بچه و دختر خود بازی خاطر ما گفت من فکر میکنم که اینمی تو یک استیج لایف زندگیشان است که یا در نمی عمر 10 تا 18 که هستن، اینمی وقت ما که میگیم دیوانگیش است یا جوانیش است که تیر میشه. مگر ما باید بفهمیم که اینمی وقت بسیار وقت مهم است که بچه ها دختره خود شما همکار باشین و همکاری کنین. Dear brothers and sisters, I want to give my salam to all of you. Today's program is going to be geared towards understanding teenagers. The reason why I want to tackle this topic is that a lot of family members are having difficult times, working with their own children. What they see in today's world, they've come to realize that, parents have limited resources or limited knowledge of what goes on in a child's life. And the reason for that is that, a lot of parents, they are either at work, especially the fathers. Some families, you have both father and mother working, and then the child is just at home, or they're in school, they're going to school, not really involved in their child's life. Then you have those families who have, the father working and the mother at home. The mother just knows, or the mother can do so much, which is, just to keep the kids disciplined. There's limited resources or limited discipline given to them at home. And the challenge comes is when they want to seek assistance from the father, but the father is not there because they don't really understand them. A lot of parents are parents, but they're not. They don't have the tools to be the parent, to lead. Like I said again, and I'll say it again, a lot of us become parents, but a lot of us are not perfect parents. A lot of us have children, but we're not the perfect parent to our children. And that comes with time, that comes with experience, and that comes with, education, most of all. But I want to really gear and tackle this session towards the importance of how can we work together, or how can we work with our teenagers and here in today's world, especially living in America. If you're living in Europe, Canada, Amsterdam, California, everywhere you look, parents are having the same issues. This is more of a difficult thing for parents to accept. But as teenagers, we have to also make the effort to tell our parents or talk to our parents. And as parents, you also have to be open to understanding your teenagers. I've said it earlier on, and I'll say it again. A child develops. They're in a developmental stage, both physically, mentally, emotionally. For females, for girls, it's a lot sooner. Their developmental stages are really well off. Where they can think very clearly by the time they're 21, 22. For boys and men, it turns, once they hit 25, they actually learn to conceptualize what the meaning of life is, first and foremost. And for us, for us parents, we have to understand that. I know it becomes difficult for a lot of us as parents. As kids get older, we always say it's a phase. They'll get out of it. Either they like the way life is, or they don't. What we do is we really introduce our culture or religion in a very extensive way, where a lot of our children are starting to rebel. And the reason why that is that a mother or a father would tell the child, for instance, you cannot wear, if it's a girl, this has happened, if a girl that wears a skirt, or short clothing, the father and the mother, instead of actually explaining to them, the reasons why, either it be religiously or culturally, they just say, no, this is against our religion, and you cannot wear it. That's it. And then you kind of put blame on them by saying, oh, this, you're gonna bring shame to us, to our families. You're gonna make us look bad. This, you're no longer part of the family if you do stuff like this. But that child really doesn't know, okay, the religion's against it, but you're not telling them why is that against it. As parents, we have to be more open to the way we introduce it. The way we introduce things to an individual, it has to be very, it has to be broken down into terms where they can understand it. So if your child's in middle school or in high school, and if you tell them, no, you can't do this, make sure there's a reason to it. There's a reason to it, and why, that child, is not allowed to wear that skirt at that age. If you're a parent, depending on who you are too. And this is not for all those Afghans who's watching this. Some families are okay with it. Some families are not okay with their kids wearing shorts, either be a boy or a girl. I've seen families, even as if they have sons, their parents don't allow their sons to wear shorts in the house. And that becomes also an idea. You have to be able to explain the reasons why you can't wear it. But then again, you have to have an open communication. Like I said, you have to be able to tell your child that you can't wear shorts, either you be a guy or a girl, because of these reasons and why it's stated. And if it's religious reasons why you shouldn't wear it, if it's cultural reasons why you shouldn't wear it, but you have to explain the reasons why to it. You can't just say, no, this is just against the religion and that's it. That doesn't help out. As parents, you should be able to tackle those issues. You should be able to talk to your kids about those issues. Or as teenagers, teenagers come to an age where they're trying to understand and realize, what is it that they want in life. First and foremost, your child will experiment. This is the age your child's going to experiment with his life. And the reason why that is that early adolescence can be challenging at times for children and parents alike. And the reason for that is that, they're at a stage or at a phase, as we say, where children are starting to become more independent. As they become more independent, they're getting out of the house. Once they hit middle school and high school, they're out of the house. They're in a different environment. Depending on the environment, they want to try out those certain things. It either be going out and hanging out with friends that parents approve or parents do not approve of. If you know that your child is hanging out with individuals who are bad influences on them, kids who have bad habits of smoking or drinking, or doing things that are against your principles, those can become very difficult for you as a parent, because you don't know how to delay that to your child. And what you usually do is, I'm assuming, but please do call and let me know if this is true or not. We basically try to overpower the teenager, and we basically tell them that, well, this child, I do not want you to hang out with this child because they're doing drugs, they're smoking, and that's bad. To say those are bad things, but you also have to understand, as children, you have to actually go deeper and actually tell them, hey, drinking is bad, but why is it bad? It's up there, top two, number one or number two leading cause of death in America is drinking. You have to tell them, you have to show them videos, scenarios, take them to places where they can actually see and understand, the negative side of it too. If you want them to understand, what you're trying to teach them. You can't just say something and and not really explain it to them. I hope that makes sense, but that's how things work. If you just tell them, it's bad, you've got bad friends, I don't like them. Well, that's your child's gonna say, well, you don't like him, I like him. What difference does it make? Yeah, that's fine. When you're around, I won't hang out with them, but if you're not around, I'm gonna hang out with them. So you have to have that communication, that open communication with your child, where in a way you have to understand their needs, but at the same time you have to be able to draw that line of discipline on being that good teacher, as we say. Parents are teachers of their children, and parents often feel unprepared, and they view things. And they've always viewed things, like I said again, age 12 to 18 as a very, a time where just, this is a time where children would just get through this phase. It's a stage of life for them. But however, research has showed it, and even common sense has shown that, they tell us that the views that we see with our children is very limited in that time period, but that time period really helps them shape into who they're going to become once they get older. So you have to, again, remember, it's important how much time you spend with your kids. It's important how you communicate with your kids. Anytime you're uninvolved or too involved with your kids and you don't explain things to them perfectly, they are going to rebel and they will do things behind your back. And again, you have to understand. I'll give you a scenario where you have parents who actually say, it's okay if let's say if some parents say, what, we have an open communication with I have an open communication with my daughter or my son, and they hit a legal age of drinking, and this is normal, brothers and sisters. People do that in today's world, and where they drink. And what parents usually say is that, I usually tell my parents if I tell my children if they smoke or if they drink, I'll do it with them. Well, that means that parent themselves also do that stuff. So that's a norm or a way of life in how that parents lives their own life. So for them, that's not a big deal. Versus you have those parents that say, no, I don't want my children drinking. But then guess what? They drink themselves. But then your children are going to go behind your back and they're going to start drinking. And then you have those parents that don't drink or don't smoke. And you have to show your kids that, they have to model, they have to see what you're doing. If you're doing something and then if you tell them not to do the same exact thing, well, that doesn't make sense. You have to understand whatever you do, if it's either against your beliefs, if you're a parent that does not do any of those things and you keep telling your kids, the importance of not to do drinking or smoking or hang out with a certain people, guess what? When they look at you, they'll do the same. They'll say, well, my parents don't do it, and then I'm not going to do it either. The likelihood there is very high. It's very high. But if you're parents that don't smoke or don't drink or don't do anything, as we say, bad in life, and you're uninvolved with your children, but you're just in and out of their lives, they will do it because there's no open communication. You're not involved in their lives. So remember, for teenagers, it's important that you greatly be involved in their lives, and you're showing that you care and you're there for them, especially with teenagers. And I'll say it again: parents and families can greatly influence the growth of developmental of their children, and it's important that as parents, they don't realize this, but they end up, you can end up making a big influence in your child's life by really being involved in their daily activities, in their daily conversations. It's not easy to raise a young teen. Many outside influences do distract your child's complications of what they go through, and I have to tell you again, it's a stage where even parents, when your child does certain things, you can't just punish them fully for it. You have to understand to work with them at that certain age. If you see them hanging out with bad friends, remember, you have to intervene and talk to them and tell them reasons why you shouldn't hang out with that individual. Give them the pros and the cons. Not even that, just ask your son or ask your daughter, hey, you know what's good and bad. To your child at that stage, they do know what is good and what's bad. Just sit down and just tell them, okay, let's make a list of, if you hang out with him, what are the benefits? Write it down. What are the pros? And as we say, what are the pros and what are the cons? You write down what is good for that child, they'll write it down, and then you get another piece of paper and talk about, okay, when you are hanging out with friends who's always getting in trouble, okay, first of all, let's talk about the pros. Are you learning anything new from them? Are you learning anything that is helping you that will help you in school-wise? Your child says no. Okay, that's con. That's a bad thing. You write it down. And the bad thing, is a friend there to help you and support you? And they're like, yeah, they're there to help and support me, but they don't really help me in my life decisions. They're there as friends. You put yes, it's a good thing, but supporting you in your journey, or your in your academic grades, they don't. You write it down, and then you'll weigh it with your child. You'll say, okay, what are the positives and what are the negatives? Eventually you'll get more negatives, because you end up going towards okay, if you get in trouble with the law enforcement, you get in trouble with your parents, you get in trouble with the school. Those are all negatives, and that gives your child an idea of, okay, you know what, if I do all of this, I'm going to get in trouble. I'll be in trouble. I'll have a bad record. I'm not going to be able to go ahead and do what I want later in life in terms of having maybe a successful career because I'm not growing as an individual. These things are very important that you talk to your children about. It's, you know, and these are the things that we don't really talk about as much, but at the end of the day, you have to remember that as parents, these are also important factors and ideas that that we have to implement with our children. You know, it is exhausting. You know, it is, you know, there is like lack of support that children do usually feel, especially teenagers from their parents, especially in our communities. They don't feel supported fully, and the reason why for that is that their parents, what they usually do is they've lived a life of a certain age in a certain era when they were younger. So the community that they grew up in, the culture that they grew up in, the people that they interacted with, it's much different than what the child is dealing with, and that's where the disconnect comes to play, where the child has his own needs, the parents has his own needs and his own vision of the child, which do not match. When that does not match, you know, then you'll see a lot of teenagers resentment towards their parents. They start to rebel. They start to have a difficult time understanding what is, you know, what is the importance of even sitting down with my own parents and telling them what I want to do for the rest of my life. You know, a lack of uninvolvement to parents. I want to let you know that later in life, your children will eventually do things on their own, where if you don't give them time when they're little, when they're young, when they need you the most, when they get older, they're not going to involve you in stuff. And that has happened, and that will happen. If you have a parent where the father or the mother is working 24/7, and they don't give time to their children, or they don't actually take a look at, you know, how is the children being raised? Are they being raised the proper way? Are we going to their school events? A lot of us, we don't really take the initiatives, but we don't even go to our own children's games. You know, either be academically. I know for us, you know, Afghans, we're very big on academics, but you have to understand, for a child, academics isn't as important as sports are. You have to show them that you support them in the sport as well. So if they're playing a certain sport, you have to, you know, as parents, please do your best to go to their sport games, because for them, it's very important. Your children, they see, you know, their teammates who go and play. They see their parents. They see how much, you know, love is being shared amongst each other. And then I've seen actual individuals who come to me, even for my therapy sessions, who I've spoken to before, and they'll say, you know what, my parents are never involved in my life, and my you know, their friends always ask them, where's your parents? And they have to make up things. And to be honest, till this day, they'll be in their 20s, but they lie till this day about their parents. You know, their parents don't have the best relationship with themselves, with their children, so the child grows up becoming really a liar in that sense. In that aspect of life, they have to lie for the rest of their lives. That's what ends up happening. And then when I talk to them, what is your plan with your family? Well, once I get older, once I start working, you know, I'm gonna go look for my own place. I'm gonna go, you know, I just want to get out of the house. You know, then your child starts to get out of the house, and they try to do their best to leave the house from you. So it's really important, brothers and sisters and parents. You have to understand that teenage years are very important years, and you can't miss it. And I also wanted to touch bases on the importance of, there's a theorist, back in 1959, there's a guy named Erik Erikson. He has a model, a theoretical model that he has developed, which breaks down into 8 stages. The stage that I want to talk to you today is the 5th stage. It's called the identity versus role confusion, or you can call it identity versus identity confusion. So what ends up happening in this stage is that you have the child, what ends up happening to the child in this stage is that between the age of 12 to 18, they're becoming more independent. As I told you, they leave the house after middle school, after elementary school, when they go to middle school, and then when they're in high school, they want to become more independent. When I say they're becoming more independent, they start to look for their own future in terms of, who are they as a boy and as a girl? What is their purpose? As being a boy and a girl, they're trying to figure out their biological, they're trying to learn about their biological needs. As a boy, I'm looking forward to understanding what does it mean when I start to grow my first hair of mustache. What does it mean when I start to, when I'm getting taller and I'm getting bigger, I'm changing physically. Those changes are scary changes for teenagers, because that's the time where society is going to talk big time on them. When I mean society is going to talk a lot on them, is that those are the stages a child changes. People will start saying, oh, your child is getting bigger, or what grade are they going to, their behaviors are changing, the way they think, the way they dress, the way they're trying to fit themselves into society. All of those things change. When those things change, the child is trying to understand themselves. Some of these things are not understood by the child and by the teenagers, because these are the most difficult time for them as they get older. And I'll tell you why it's also very important and why it's difficult for your teenagers, because there's certain things that as parents you don't know what's going through your child's life that's very much affecting it. So before I do that, I also want you guys to just to understand the important role play of, even theoretically, this is a research done on those individuals that are 12 to 18 and what are the changes that they go throughout every child. This is a process every child goes through. The environment, the house, themselves as a child, what do they want? Usually by 20, let's say in their 20s, the child is fully grown. They have their own identity of who they are. But over here, you have to understand that the person either grows up with values, norms, and ideas of what the parents envisioned, how the parents wanted the child to become. Either the child becomes that, or the child, throughout their struggle, is still struggling with those challenges because the family is not accepting the change. But that's how your child have been shaped up with their experiences, both physically, mentally, emotionally, and that's how they're gonna become. And as parents, you have to understand that your child is not going to change after they hit over 25, 30. That's how their identity is going to become. Yes, they will do things according to what you as a parent want them to do, or how you want them to see, but behind your back, as we say, well, not behind your back, but in a different setting, when the child is by themselves, they're themselves. That's how they live their lives. And again, I told you earlier, dear brothers and sisters, everyone's different in life. Today I will, I can speak, Pashto or Dari. Tomorrow my kids or my grandkids might not. That's out of my hand. That they're their own person. I can try so hard. I personally, I have siblings. Me and my sister that's younger than me, we speak fully Dari and Pashto. But when it comes to my other two young siblings that were born here, they don't speak a word. They understand it fully, but they don't speak it. No matter how much we've tried working with them, we tried bargaining with them, we tried to talk to them on, what is it that you're not, why is it that you don't want to talk to us? It's because of the, not being safe, and then, in surroundings where they're not comfortable, they don't want to speak. They feel that if they do speak, they're going to be made fun of. And they're at that stage. They're in they're in the stage of high school years, where they're still trying to figure themselves out. But later in life, as they get 20, 25, they'll start talking little by little. But till then, they're not going to talk. I know deeply inside to I have siblings. They're not going to talk. They fully understand it. We talk to them in Pashto and in Dari, but they fully understand it. They'll do what we tell them, but they still respond in English. We've tried so much, we tried so hard, it just doesn't work. Just doesn't work out. And the other thing is that it also matters with the group of people that surround the household as well. My household, we speak, first and foremost, we speak, both Farsi and Pashto with my parents, with both of them. So that also makes it difficult for the youngsters to grasp, okay, what do I speak? And then they go outside, right outside of the door, they have best friends who are all speaking in English. So they picked up the majority that speaks English, and that's what they end up doing, is they start speaking in English. But it doesn't mean that you're going to force your kids, no, you have to speak this, so I'm not talking to you. It's like, again, you can do as much as you can, but you have to meet the child to their needs, not to our needs. It's not going to benefit me in any way possible if I force my brother or sister to talk in Farsi or Pashto. It's not going to benefit me. I'm doing it. I'm going to talk to them and meet them where they are, because at the end of the day, as they get older, we tried. We worked with them, but we're trying to do, whatever benefits them. If as they get older, if they change their, if they say that, what, I'm going to speak more in Farsi and Pashto, then go ahead. But as parents, you do your best. You don't want to force it, or you don't want to punish them because they don't speak it. Then that becomes more difficult, and then you're just going to cause more problems in their lives. So let's go on and let's talk about certain things that I want to tackle, geared specifically towards what are some of the difficulties that parents actually go through, or teenagers go through. Please remember, as parents, you have to remember there are certain things that children or teenagers go through difficult times, which you have to understand that you do not know of, and that's because even myself, I grew up here, and I know the difficulties and the challenges that we had to go through in school, and some of the stuff that I tell you and I share with you, these are certain things that you will understand as parents. The children that are watching the show, they'll also understand the importance of, yes, you know what, all of these things are happening to me, or I'm going through a lot of these struggles. For those that are going through these struggles, please remember, for you guys, or for parents, I know for parents, if you guys are seeing these symptoms amongst your children, you can give me a call at 714-602-9242 and share them with me, or what has worked best for you and your children in order to get out of these phases. Or for the children, or for the teenagers, I would say, if you don't feel comfortable, if you think that, what, I don't want to talk because my parents don't understand me, guess what, it's okay. As parents, not all your parents are going to understand you. Even as teenagers, you have to understand, just the way they don't understand you, their parents probably feel the same way about you, that you don't understand them. So it's vice versa. You have to remember, not everybody understands each other. But that's why we have to learn to work with one another and communicate. Communication is the key to how to work better amongst ourselves and others. And for those who are teenagers, you can either text me 424-228-6797. That's actually my personal cell phone. If you have any questions, if you know that, okay, you know what, I might need to talk to somebody, or I need help, or you can email me on wali@accesscal.org. and I'll be able to better help you as well. If you feel comfortable, if you feel safe that way, please do so. Again, I'm here to help. If you think that, if I can't bring the change amongst, or educate the family and the teenage, or the family members through TV, I can actually do it in an individual level where everything will stay confidential. So remember that. So now let's hear, we're gonna think of, here's the things, I'm gonna talk about 10 things actually. 10 issues that a lot of the teenagers struggle in today's world, specifically here in America, which I don't know if families are aware or not, but I'm gonna go through them, and I want to give you guys a better idea, or a sense of notion that these are difficulties that the children are going through, and either you do know it, or you don't know about it, or you don't know how to work with it. That's why I'm here. I'm here to help you guys. If you guys want to take the help, great. If you don't, I can't do anything about it, so please bear with me. Number one thing, or the biggest thing that a lot of teenagers actually do face in today's world, is number one is depression. I don't know if you guys know, but there's about 3.1 million people, or teenagers, that are diagnosed with going through depression. That means that that's a big rough estimate of about 20% of the teens in America. That's a lot of people that are going through some form of depressive symptoms, major depressive symptoms, at least once throughout the year. It's not that it's throughout life, it's throughout 1 year. They go through one specific depressive symptoms where they feel down, they feel like, the parents aren't supportive, the parents don't understand the child, the parents are not involved in the child's life, the parents are always blaming the child for something that the parents do not see eye to eye with. They don't see eye to eye with the child. The child is being forced to go to school or to take certain classes because that's what the parents want from them, but the parents don't realize that maybe some of your children are good and they can excel in certain classes, they can take hard classes, but a lot of family members forget that some kids need special attention, some of you kids need extra help. Like I said, brain development is very difficult. A child can be developmentally very sharp and very fast and in their life. Some children or some youth are not. Some people just throughout their lives, they need support. They're not going to be able to take honor classes. So remember, if you're forcing your child to do something, they fall into this category. And this is also, depression is also one of the symptoms that is especially higher in females. So a lot of girls go through depression. So remember, a lot of the girls in their depressive, in the stages of teenage years, they go through a lot of difficulties. And again, a lot of the pressure is put on the daughters. As we know, especially being Afghans, we know that we do put a lot of pressure, put a lot of pressure on the females. And we know the reasons why to that is. And that's because a lot of families do consider boys being more important than girls. Some families do not, but good amount do feel that boys are more important than girls, which is not true. I've seen girls put more harder work. They've worked a lot harder than boys have. Excuse me. That's one of the things. Giving credit to the boys, giving less credit to the girls. Having high expectations of your daughters. Remember, these are teenagers. They're not women, or they're not in their 30s or they're in their 40s where you would expect something solid from them. As parents, what we do is we end up conceptualizing on the importance of, parents are 40, 50, 60, and they're fully developed. And you're picturing yourself and you're picturing your daughter or your son to be exactly like you. But guess what? You yourself were not the same way when you were their age. You were still struggling. You were still going through a hard time. Your child's also going through a hard time. So you have to remember to ease it on them and be able to work with them, not to push against what they're doing. Yes, again, I told you sit down with them if they're doing something that's wrong, something against the religion, something against the culture, or something that's against your values or practices or your rules in the house. What you do is you sit down with them and you get a piece of paper and you talk about it and talk about, okay, what are the pros and what are the cons? And then you go based off of that. If there's more negative that you find than positive, then you tell your child, well, here's your answer. If there's more positive, then here's your answer. And then maybe you as parents might learn something new that you didn't know. But again, I want to talk to you guys, and tell you that, depression is on an increasing level amongst especially more of the girls than the guys. So please remember, if your daughter or your kid is going through depressive symptoms, if they're having a hard time, in school, if your child is not physically active in terms of going out and playing with other kids, if they're staying at home, if they're to themselves, if they're isolated from everyone else, if they feel hopeless, if they have opened up to you and they have spoken to you and then they feel hopeless, that's not a good sign. If they are crying daily, please remember, you guys need to get them help. Get the child help, have them seek professional help. When I mean professional help, please remember, this doesn't mean you take him to the local imam or sheikh. Please don't do that. I know this happens a lot. I do talk to a lot of our community leaders who are imams and sheikhs here in all of Southern California. We actually have a meeting at the Shura Council next week at Masjid Irvine, and I'm usually a part of that. And being a part of that, what I do is I usually educate community leaders on the importance of day-to-day struggles. Yes, they do come across struggles, and what they end up doing is they give out religious or hadith scriptural ideas of how life should be, but they don't understand that the developmental stage of how a human being is. A child is not going to know, how to understand the Quran in terms of how you do as parents. A child will not understand, what is the meaning of the Quran at that stage. No one's going to know that. I didn't know that. As I get older, I start to realize, okay, the importance of, what do these passages mean? What does the Quran mean? What does the Hadith mean? What is the purpose of religion or life in an essence? What does it mean for us to live life based on those principles? When I was younger, I didn't care. I'll be honest, I didn't care about any of that. And it's just normal. As children, my thing wasn't on, okay, let me study or let me live my life based on what it said. I didn't understand it. And not just that, but there was nobody fully there to really educate me on the level that I was in. Yes, adults will talk about it, but I didn't get it. As a teenager or as a child, I need somebody to actually talk to me in a way where I can fully understand it in an easier manner, in an easier way, not in a way where I'm just talking to you as I'm talking to a 30, 40-year-old. A 12-year-old is not going to understand that. So remember, there's the difference between that, brothers and sisters. Again, as I said, please seek help for your child. It's important, and it will be better, just that you are also showing more involvement in their lives. And a lot of people don't realize this, but I know a lot of Afghans, not just that, but a lot of the Muslim community in today's world, they don't believe on the importance of mental health. And the reason why that is that they don't believe in mental health. They think that mental health is lack of religion, spirituality, practice. And I've said it again, if you're not physically, mentally, emotionally connected together, they're interconnected. So if something's bothering you in life and you get up on that prayer mat, guess what? There's some people it works. Some people can go ahead and pray and they feel better especially when you're older, or even if you're younger. But majority of people, they don't understand that. If they're praying, if they get on top of the janamaz and they start praying, their mind's wandering around, and that's because they don't have the coping skills. They don't understand how to deal with the problem, and that's what usually therapists do. And the Quran itself tells us that they have sent professionals. There's professionals for certain things. Again, if that was the case, if we do studying the Quran, I can say, well, I don't believe in engineers, but I'm going to learn. I'm going to go and build that bridge. Who am I trying to fool? I'm not trying to fool myself. Same way as people, as parents and as teenagers, you have to also understand that there's professionals that actually work with these life challenges. And that's what we do. And life isn't perfect, but we can work towards making it easier on us and our parents by having a good communication. That's what we want. That's what we essentially want. Dear brothers and sisters, the number 2 biggest thing that we have to understand amongst our families and individuals, our children, is that bullying, the importance of bullying. A lot of us don't take this seriously, but your children, a child that's in school, your children that are going to school, especially your children who are Muslims, who are from different backgrounds or ethnicities, your child gets bullied in school, and you have to remember that. But again, it's not just your child being bullied, but you have to remember as parents, some of your children are bullies themselves. So you also have to remember that it's not just a one-way information I'm giving you that, you know, your child, just because there's bullying is the biggest challenge in today's world with teenagers. It's not that your child is always being bullied or being made fun of, but it's always the opposite as well. Your child also is the bully that's going in and hurting other people. And I know as parents you should know who they are. And as teenagers, you as well need to understand that it's not okay to bully others, and it's not okay to be bullied yourself. There's help in school. You always go. What you need to do is you need to talk to your parents. You need to talk to your school administration, teachers, principals, and you need to get rid of, you know, any bad things that are around you, any bad scenarios, any bad people that influence you in a bad way. And the reason why I say that is that, according to research that was conducted by the Family First Aid, they said that 30% of teenagers in the U.S. has been involved in bullying. 30%, that's a lot of people. Either they've been victims or they've been bullies. And a lot of it has gone up due to social media. Social media has become a big problem in today's world, and that's, you know, the internet, telephones, computers. A lot of people are starting to do cyberbullying. A lot of teenagers don't realize, but they'll send a picture to their friends, either appropriate or inappropriate pictures, and when somebody else gets a holds on to that picture, what ends up happening is that individual will take it and use it against you and try to shame you, and that's going to affect you big time, and that's going to affect the family big time. And again, I'll tell everyone, you know, especially with teenagers, remember this: please try to do your best to not send pictures to others. First and foremost, you have to have limits to what you do. Some people are, like I said, are bullies. You can fall into becoming a victim. There's always a two-way streak, and this doesn't just go for teenagers. This also goes for mothers and parents too, fathers and mothers. You guys are also individuals that fall into becoming a victim with your child, or you also are a bully that actually bullies other people. And I'm just saying it as it is because this is the truth. So you have to remember, we have to be notified that the fact that, you know, your child is going through a bullying problem, because either the food that you put in their lunch boxes, it's food that they don't want to eat. Maybe the kids in school tell them either it tastes too good or it doesn't taste well. Your child is embarrassed to take food. The clothing that you wear or that you buy them, they don't like. I know this is also a big thing where a lot of parents, they take their kids and they like to get them clothes that they want them to wear. And that becomes a problem, because once a child hits middle school and high school, they want to dress themselves their way. And what I mean by that is a lot of teenagers, they would prefer getting things that are geared towards, you know, big brands, you know, things like Adidas, Nikes. Some families don't have the means to buy those for their children. And as you know, for children, you have to remember, you have to go based on what your parents make. You know, if you have to go based on what you have, but your parents also need to understand that you have needs. Maybe they need to let you choose what you can wear and what you can't, as long as it's appropriately worn, you know, by the values and the norms of your own home, of your house. So remember, for parents, remember that bullying is a big thing that's being spread apart in today's world. Even as adults, people go through bullying. When you're a child, you go through even bigger bullying. You know, you don't know what to do. You're having a hard time in school, and it becomes very hard for the parents to realize what's going on. I know it's hard to talk about it, but it's important to talk about it if you're a child, to your parents, that, you know, you're being bullied. It doesn't mean that you're less of a, if you're a boy, less of a man. If you're a girl, please don't feel ashamed. These are important matters where your family could help you. If somebody is bothering you, please talk to your parents. If somebody, even if it's a teacher that's bothering you, please tell your parents so they can go and talk to the school. These are important matters because they will affect you in school. Please tell me if it's right, if I'm telling the truth or not. If you are being bullied and you go to school, let's say somebody takes your lunch every time you go to school. Do you not wonder, or let's say people take your lunch and they fight you every day, or they harass you? Do you not think of that throughout the whole day, throughout you being in classes? Do you not think about the fact that, oh, once it hits lunch or once it hits breakfast time or recess time, I'm gonna have to see this individual, and you have this feelings of anxiety in your stomach. You get stomach pain. You're feeling afraid. You don't want to see this person. That right there is really bad for you, and it's really bad for your health, because that shows that your attention is not towards your education, but it's towards one individual that's really ruining your educational experience. So for you, it's important to speak up. Please do speak up. Parents are not against you. The school's not against you. We're not against you, or people that are here. No one's against you, but you and you have to speak up when stuff like this does occur. Now I also want to talk about another thing that teenagers do come across, or for parents, that don't think the children are not involved in these activities, but what it is that it's the drug use, especially when it comes to high schoolers mainly. Middle school starts in middle school, but it goes higher. The percentage of usage goes higher once it hits high school. So in 2017, 6% of 12th graders reported using marijuana daily, and marijuana use exceeded cigarette use in teens now. I know this has become more of a cultural thing, where if you're living in certain states of United States, marijuana is legal, and you have to remember that your kids, sometimes in their lives in school, they will come across individuals that will come forward and tell them to either smoke or drink, and as parents, you have to remember that these are things that do take place in today's world, and you have to be aware of this. You have to be aware of this, and a lot of us are not too involved to know that our kids do drugs, and a lot of children or teenagers really underestimate how easy it is to develop an addiction. That's the other thing I want to talk about, is that people don't realize it, but a lot of these things that that teenagers do is, if they're smoking marijuana, if they're smoking cigarettes, tobacco, you've got the new hookah, or when it comes to the e-vape, I forgot what the full name was, the electronic cigarettes that people are starting to use, or drinking alcohol. They tend to forget that these are addictive stuff. People can get addicted to it. And the reason why that is that when you are going through a hard time, let me pick up this phone real quick. Hello?
Hi, is this Alicia?
Yes, this is. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Good.
I'm calling in because I really love the topic you're discussing today, and as an adult now, I can definitely say that a lot of the examples that you're presenting on your show today is something that I have experienced growing up here in America as an Afghan. But I kind of wanted to talk a bit more and give some more examples about the difficulty kids are running into. I love how you're discussing that if a child has a problem in school, they should talk to their parents and let their parents know that they're being bullied. But my experience was growing up, if I told my parents had a hard time going to my school and talking about the problem because they didn't have the language capability. And I was also afraid most of the time telling my parents, because the last thing I wanted them to do was to come to my school and talk to my teachers or the students who were bullying me, because I was afraid of retaliation. And the social media, for a long time, my parents did not allow me to have a social media, and it felt like that was the only way I could connect, or I could fit in among my friends. So that was something that was really important to me, to be able to fit in, because I never felt like I could fit in, but social media allowed me to fit in. So if you could talk a bit more about these two topics, about how a child can receive assistance without being embarrassed, more without having parents interfere, and then kids bullying them even more for asking their parents to help them, because a lot of kids feel like that make them look weak.
Yeah, yeah. All right, thank you so
Okay,
much for calling.
thank you so
Appreciate
much.
it. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Again, thank you for the call. I will answer both of your questions. So before that, I know I was talking about, you know, the importance of why parents don't, or the children don't actually reach out for assistance. And I give the examples of, for instance, even our caller that called in and said that one of the biggest issues was that, you know, language capacity, you know, capability of their parents understanding what is going on in the child's life. Well, for the child, you know, I know you're going through so much in school, and I'm assuming, you know, you don't want you know, your parent to come in and realize that, you know, you're in trouble. Guess what? You're not going to be in trouble. Your parents want the best for you. No matter who you are, your parents would want the best for you. And if you don't feel comfortable your parent being there, your parents are not aware of, well, first of all, if you're not comfortable with letting your parents know, what you can do is every school has a counselor. You can go and talk to your counselor about this. It stays confidential. If it stays confidential, and if you think that this is something harmful, or, you know, where kids are going to look down upon you, well, guess what? Kids are gonna look down upon you, but then you have to remember that was not the right crowd for you. Usually, it's those people that actually look down upon you, is those that really don't want you to exceed in life, or that, you know, maybe you're not the person to be with that individual or with that certain group. There's so many groups out in school. There's so many people in school that you can be friends with. You know, there's times where you have a picture of fitting into a group, but maybe that group isn't for you. You just have to understand, you know, that's something that you will, when you're making friends in school, you will understand that who are your friends and who are not. Maybe the quiet people on the side that nobody wants to hang out with, maybe those are the people that will best respect and maybe support you. But you have to understand that these are the things that, you know, if you do report an individual, if you're afraid that people are going to talk down upon you, you can always go to your school counselor and talk to them, because they're there to help and support you, and that's one way your parents wouldn't know either. Because if you were 12, by the state of California, especially in California, if a therapist sees, or a social worker in school sees that there's reasonable doubts, or there's actual you know, needs for you to be seen by a therapist, it can be done without the parental consent. So remember, you can be seen by a therapist without your parents' consent if you're going through a hard time. And so now we have the other thing that the phone caller discussed about was the importance of social media, and how that gives her a platform of making friends. Yes, that does give you a platform of making friends, but you have to understand the importance of the limitations of how much you use social media. Dear brothers and sisters, I have a video after today's show. Please bear with me. I'm not going to be long on air. So if you do have questions, please give me a call again. Call me at 714-602-9242. If you have any questions, if you have any suggestions, because I'm probably going to be on for another 20 minutes, and then I have a video that I want to share. And that's going to be geared towards the importance of social media on an individual's well-being. Yes, it has benefits, both positive and negatives, which I will talk about in the video. It's my video that I had spoken in one of the masjids at one of the mosques in Rancho Cucamonga. So that will give you a better idea of you know, what can be done when you do social media. Why is it good and why is it bad? So even that, there's a limit to what you do. But yes, you can make friends from it. But again, too much social media can cause other problems too. And again, I told you guys, you know, everybody, that alcohol usage is also a significant difficulty that a lot of parents are seeing in their children, that the child is consuming liquor, you know, alcohol, or they're taking drugs. A lot of parents need to understand that when the child is going through a hard time and they realize that the parents are not there to support them, For parents, you have to understand, this is the thing, parents. Whenever a child comes to you and they say something, you automatically kind of, what you do is you throw away everything that they talk about. If a child comes and says, hey, mom and dad, I'm gonna be honest with you, but I got in a fight in school. The first thing the parents do is they'll scream or they'll yell, why? Like, why did you do that? Are you out of your mind? Just attack the child. When you do that, the child feels unsafe, and they'll say, well, no, I'm here to talk to you. This is what happened. But then the parent already is, saying things that are harming the child. Your child is not going to talk to you again. They're going to be very smart about what they say, because they know that anytime they say something, you're going to get mad at them. The first thing as parents, you have to remember, it can be anything. I guarantee you. I know it's hard for parents. Remember, it is very hard to take this into consideration. But whatever your child tells you, even if it's as bad as, can I be honest, is like somebody, your son or your daughter being pregnant, listen to them first. Don't blow up. That's not the smartest thing. Anytime a child comes to you and talks to you about something, even that they did, listen to them first. Stay calm, listen, and then talk about, okay, why did you do this? Why did this happen? And then from there, little by little, as you talk to them, you come to realize, okay, was it their fault or was it not? Then you go ahead and then you punish them if you want, the way how you punish them. But prior to that, just don't jump into conclusion, because that's the moment where your child, either the trust becomes stronger or you lose the trust. That's it. That's the easiest way to talk about it. When a child comes to you, listen to them. Please try to listen to them and see the reason why they acted or why they took that step. Because remember, again, no one's perfect. Even as parents, we're not perfect either. We made decisions in life. Even I can say one where this is very common. We tell our children, when somebody calls in, and we always just tell them, let's say it's some relative or some family friends, and they'll say, is this person home? No, tell them I'm not home, or I'm not doing this. Or the parent will just tell the child when they pick up the phone, oh, tell this person I'm not home at the moment. But guess what? You're in the house. It's a lie. So even as much as that, your child's going to learn to lie like you. So it's very important you take those into consideration. The next thing I want to talk to you guys, actually, you know what? I got a question. Let me get a question I threw. The question was, my teacher is bullying me. She makes fun of me and puts me down. My principal doesn't believe me because the teacher tells everyone that I'm a bad student. What do I do? I found a picture of my daughter. Okay, so this talks about a guy. It's actually a young guy who actually texted me right now, saying that he's having a hard time because the teacher is bullying him, and he's gone to the principal, and the principal isn't doing anything. And that's something, if something like that does occur, please remember to involve your parents in it, and to keep pushing for investigation. Depending on where they are in school, you have different committees, you have different chambers of secretary, principal, vice principal. If the principal doesn't work, you go to your vice principal. If you let other staff members know that there's a problem. If, let's say, if the principal, the person who's in charge of the whole school, doesn't do anything, you have other teachers and other students or other officials, or even your parents can take this matter even higher up than the principal, because at the end of the day, other people within the school, like your secretary, your trustees, if they speak up and if they believe you that there's some problem there, they will come in and they'll make sure that the principal also believes and the things that are going in your life as well. I'm glad that you have spoken up. So now how I want to talk about the other idea of to the parents. You have to remember that obesity is also a problem. What I mean by that is that a lot of some of our children are overweight, and that means that either the child is eating too much, or or sometimes children just eat too less. They're underweight. But obesity itself it shows that there's 20.6% of 12 to 19-year-old teenagers who are actually obese in America. and part of that is that the child is not taken care of well. They're eating too much because there's a lot of problems or there's a lot of issues in their lives. Parents are not really involved in their life as well. That means that they're not getting good nutrition. The child's eating what they want, and there's no food, probably no food at home, so they end up going and buying food for themselves from outside, where the parents doesn't put the effort to buying those things. If the child becomes stressful or is under pressure, what they'll end up doing is they'll end up eating more of outside food, because under pressure, when you're under some form of pressure, the first thing you do is, in order to cope, as we tell people, when you need to cope and when you need to talk to somebody when you're going through a hard time, and what you need to do is you need to come to seek professional help or talk to a friend that will understand you. Because when you don't, you go ahead and you go buy yourself food, you eat too much, you don't realize, but then by that time you're eating too much, and what ends up happening is that you cope. That's your way of coping. Other kids or even adults, when they do drugs or when they drink alcohol, especially for children, for teenagers, when you're trying out these things, you don't realize as a social thing, social matter, where you're drinking or doing drugs, these over the time become addictive. When they become addictive, what ends up happening is that you start to use these things as a coping mechanism. So if you're going through stress, if you're going through a hard time, if you're going through a hard time with your family, or if your parent, so one of your family members said something, or your older sibling said something, or your younger sibling, they said something really bad about you, and you know that your family isn't supporting you, what you do at that moment is you get really mad at your family. When you get really mad at your family, you try to pull yourself out of the family for the moment. Either for half a day to a day or a couple of minutes, you'll go out, and the first thing you do, guess who's your best friend? It's either alcohol or it's drugs. So you start using that. I don't know if you're aware of that, but that by law, that's what ends up happening. That's where your mind runs to, is that, oh, when I do these things, I feel out of this world. And that's because you want to lose control, and you don't want to think of the current situation. When you don't think of the current situation and how to solve it, you start drinking. When you start drinking, guess what? When you're done drinking and you come back to reality, the problem is still there. You haven't fixed the problem. So it's better to work on the problem than avoid it and do other things. I got another one from actually one of the girls from one of those. She said that I found picture. Oh, it's a parent. He said, I found a picture of my daughter with a boy on Facebook. She tells me it's fake, but there's a lot of pictures. The boy's American. How can I make her tell me truth and follow our culture? Okay, good point. So this does happen. For parents, you have to understand, if your son or your daughter has pictures with another gender, don't pre-assume that that's their boyfriend or girlfriend. At times it's not. So you have to understand that as the culture that they're living in today's world, with social media and the school, being in school, when they take these pictures, again, I told you, they're young and they're at a stage where they will be taking pictures with their classmates or their friends. This is not a segregated country where you have boys in one school and girls in the other school. It's a mix. So they will have friends, or they'll talk to boys, or if you have daughters, they'll talk to boys. If you have sons, they'll talk to girls. Usually this issue arises a lot on the girls, because that becomes a problem later on, where people say, especially with honor, there's more shame that the daughter brings in compared to the boy. The boy can do anything, but then they'll say it's okay. First and foremost, even for the boy, it's not okay. You can't just judge your daughter more than the boy. You have to judge him equally, no matter what. You can't just say, yes, this is the world we live in. Unfortunately, we are not thinking according to fairness. We're thinking according to one gender versus the other, which is not right. But again, for you, I have to tell you that if your daughter is telling you that it's fake, maybe it's because with today's world, with today's media or today's technology, people can fake things, where they can grab a picture of your daughter and put it next to a guy, and make it look real. I'd be very honest with you. It's funny to say, but sometimes when my brother plays video games, my dad thinks it's real. You know, some of the video games in today's world that are made, they look very real, but they're video games. But people, like, I know my, you know, when I sit with my family members or with my dad, they'll look at it and they'll say, oh wow, who's fighting? And I'm like, this is a video game. This is not a, you know, my brother's playing video game. This is not a actual fight. So imagine that, how that can trick you. So remember, even for this one, if your daughter's telling you it's fake, maybe this is, you know, maybe, you know, she's probably telling you the truth, is that people can grab pictures and they can fake it and they can put it on, you know, through Photoshop. They can Photoshop it and fake it out. And what's taking place is maybe somebody's trying to cyberbully your daughter. Not just cyberbully your daughter, but get you angry as well. That's one thing. And the other thing for you to really understand, you know, if your daughter is telling the truth or not, and to make her tell, you know, for you to talk to your daughter about you know, your culture and why it's important that these things shouldn't take place, is that you should have an open heart-to-heart with your daughter. It either be your daughter or your son. Again, I tell you guys this because we take advantage of, you know, we put our daughters into a scale where it's much heavier. Life is more heavier on them than the boys, because we just say that, you know, it's just a life process. People will forget. People don't care if a boy does anything. You know, if a guy go ahead and cheats on their wives, that sometimes people, they think it's okay. Like, I don't get it. I mean, there's things like that people say, which I don't understand. It's not, you know, Islamically, it's the same, boy or girl. You have to remember, yes, there's different things where girls are, you know, things weigh more for girls, and boys, they're separate, but not when it comes to what they do and how they do things. It's pretty much equal. So remember, for you as a parent, sit down with your daughter. First of all, like I said, the first thing to do with them is listen to what they have to say. Maybe, you know, this is something that's fake. Somebody's trying to, you know, do this on purpose, trying to blackmail your child or you yourself or your family. Maybe it's because of jealousy. Maybe it's because of something that has happened. People do a lot of things in today's world. And as a parent, you have to sit down with your daughter and say, okay, what's taking place? And if your daughter's pictures are up on social media, you can also report that. So if you report it, Facebook will take it out. So as long as you can catch it, as long as you know whose picture is up, it's either your boys or your girls, you have the right to take it down. You just have to report it on Facebook and just say, this is not our account, and this was played or this was displayed without my authorization, and they'll take it down for you. And I hope that helped. Again, the other thing I talked about was obesities. So remember, for parents, it's important that you are actively involved in your child's life. You're constantly going out with them. You're taking them to the park. Spend some time with your children, please. Don't just leave them as it is, and you as a parent, you're not taking care of them. Take care of your child. Make sure that they're having they're staying healthy, and they're going to the park. They're going, they're doing sports, and you're supporting them. And make sure that, even as a child, they don't have too much pressure on their plate. Because the more pressure you put on them, guess what? The more likelihood is that they're going to start to become more depressed. With depression, you're either eating too much or you're eating too little. That's one of the symptoms. So if a child starts eating too much and you see there's weight put on, that means that they're not taking their health. They're not taking care of their health, and that becomes a problem. And that also is a much greater risk of lifelong health problems, such as diabetes, arthritis, cancer, or heart disease. So remember, these are important things later in life for them. We're almost done, so bear with me. We're almost done before I put on the video for you guys to share. The importance of academic problems. If you see that your child is not doing well in school, remember this: there's something going on in your child's life. Also, as an individual, I have told this to a lot of you guys, and I'll tell you again, as an Afghan fellow, to remember to always take your kids once they hit 2-3 years old. Once they're 2 or 3, take them to your normal physician, pediatrician, and tell them to get your child checked out, by Harbor Regional, or by a psychologist to see if your child has any learning disabilities. And it's very important because a lot of people don't realize this, but when you have kids, you have to remember you have to be on top of everything, and that can also cause problems later. And it has caused problems because a lot of parents, what they end up doing is that they will know the diagnosis, but you know what they do is they cover the problem. They'll say, no, my kids are going to be fine. I want them to be in regular class so they can learn things a lot quicker. They'll learn certain things, but certain things they're going to have a hard time. Your child's not going to do well later in life in certain classes because you held them back. This is why we have professionals that can help the child. But as parents, don't get me wrong, there are certain rights that you have. If you know your child can do more, you push for more. But don't always put them into something that's very high and then they score low. Put them in low, little by little, keep pushing it up and making it higher. It's much easier that way. And there's less pressure on your child because as they get older, then if you put them in a place where it's really high, they're going to hate school and they're going to hate their lives. And that causes a lot of problems. So remember, if they're having academic problems, please make sure that you go to the school, you talk to your child, you sit with the social worker in school, and you guys come up with a good plan towards your child's education to better support them. So we have another thing. I'll do two last things I'll talk about, and then we're going to go ahead and I'm going to play the video of the importance of social media for you guys. But remember this, peer pressure. This is probably one of the biggest as well, is that the folks or the friends that your children hang out with in school is also really important to realize, okay, if they're good or, if they're good influence on your children or they're a bad influence on your children. So what ends up happening is while peer pressure isn't a new issue, it has brought in something that's more bigger in today's world. Friends do determine how your child will react. Because they're young, they don't know the difference between right and wrong till you actually sit down with them and you talk to them about it. So what ends up happening is that when your child has friends, peer pressure comes into play, where your child is sitting in a class and somebody brings drugs. They bring in drugs and they say, you know what, I tried drugs the other day, it's so good. My parents do it, I do it, it makes me feel good, it makes me feel out of this world. But that child doesn't understand that the reason why they do drug isn't just because it takes them out of this world. It takes them out of this world because they're unhappy with today's world. With reality, anytime you have control of life, if you're unhappy, you're going to go to drugs. You are going to go to drugs. If you're somebody if you're trying it for the first time and you do it, there's people that do it just to try it. But there's people that constantly do it because they have a hard time in life. And when they have a hard time in life, they go back and forth with doing drugs and drinking alcohol. So friends usually in school will say, you know what, they'll look at your teenager or your child and they'll say, hey, come on, let's do it. If you don't, you got to do it in order to be cool. For teenagers, this becomes a big problem because you want to fit in with the culture of the school, with the people. With a lot of jocks, with a lot of popular kids. A lot of popular kids do drugs. In order for you to be in the cool group, in order for them to know that you're cool enough, you have to do drugs. They expect you to do drugs, or drink with them, or go out and party with them. In reality, you as young teenagers or young adults, you don't have to do those things. You have the right to control yourself. I know it's hard. I know it's hard because you guys are young and you guys want everything now. You guys think that if you guys don't hang out with them, guess what? Later in life, you're not gonna make it. I'll be very honest with you. I've gone to school. I've been peer pressured to do things. Thinking of the idea. Now that I look at it, there's a lot of people that I know in school that end up later on in life, being in college, they're not doing well. They're not doing well because they're in the same pattern they're in the same pattern of doing very bad in life because they made bad choices when they were younger. So once they get older, knowing myself, which I stayed away from a lot, from a lot of those things that were bad. Now when I look at my life, I'm like, man, I'm doing much better than them. And that's because, I pushed all of those things to the side, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna live life this way because these are the benefits that I saw when my parents talked to me, when the friends that I had talked to me about, what is good for you, what is bad for me. As time got on, when I see some of my friends that did drugs, they don't have the best life. You think that back, when you're a teenager, you want people to notice you. You want the school to notice your work, your hard work. But as you get older, you realize when you do come across your friends that did a lot of drugs, they're not doing good in life, and I'll guarantee you that. So remember, peer pressure is a lot. Sometimes for parents, they don't realize it, but your children are under peer pressure in school, and this is something that they don't. There's times where majority of times they don't want to do something, but because of peer pressure, they do it, just so they can fit in school. And you have to understand, your child also has this hard time being in school, or they have other standards in school. Yes, at home they have standards, but even outside of school they have standards. That's why we say, as once a child gets older, till they hit 25, 20 in their 20s, when they're in their 20s, early 20s or late 20s, then they have their own identity. They become into a person that can make their own decisions. But prior to that, they're kind of running around. They're kind of chasing around. Okay, if I do this, this person's gonna like me. If I do this, I'm gonna keep this person happy. But they don't realize that happiness is within. You need to do things to make yourself happy first, then other people happy. So remember, that's the differences. So I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna display the video, that will be on social media regarding the importance of social media on your well-being. As I said again, the last point here is on social media that I'm gonna talk about, and now we're gonna play the video as well pretty soon for you guys. But you have to remember, for those parents, that social media is also very important. That it causes issues in your child's life. It either be Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, the internet. It's a great way of communicating with one another, but social media can be problematic in several other ways as well. No matter who it is, where parents, what parents try to do. Even in today's world, we can see, a family is inside the house. They come inside and the family is all together, but then majority of the time they're on their social media, and that can be from parents to children, and that's because the family doesn't have a good communication bond, or let's say, for instance, one child is on social media 24/7, the other children are talking. That's because that child was, there's something wrong where the parents aren't giving enough time for that child, or the actual family itself is maybe causing pain to that child. So remember, even at the family, you can cause problems to your own child. So to go further, I hope you guys enjoyed today's topic and today's talk. This was it for today for me. Please stay tuned, because there's a video right after this when I leave. It's me talking about the importance of social media on an individual's well-being, especially a lot of the teenagers. I hope you like it. I wish you all the best. I will come next week, and I'll have another discussion of a different topic. But for this week, that was it. I hope you guys have a great rest of the day. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Can everyone hear me? Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone. Just want to thank every single one of you for being here. My name is Wali Abdul Hanifzai, and I work for an organization called Access California Services. And today we're going to discuss a topic that is gearing towards the impact of social media on an individual's well-being. So to start off, I usually ask everyone, how many people here have social media? Currently, how many people use social media? A good amount? How about you guys right there? Do you guys do social media or no? You don't know what that is? Facebook, then now Instagram, just Facebook? Anything else? Snapchat? Snapchat, okay. Okay, then you're in the right place. So as we know, we're all connected 24/7, all around the world, no matter where we are, with family members, co-workers. We've got classmates, idols that we follow. It can be a soccer player, football player, basketball players. We've got mentors, neighbors, and even strangers at times. You know, and I just want to ask everyone here, what are the benefits of social media? Can anybody just throw it out and tell me what are the benefits of using social media? What is it? It spreads, yeah. You're able to communicate and you're able to spread the word a lot quicker to the communities, to different states, different countries. What else? What else do we see usually? Yes, that's right. What is it? You connect with other people. Yes, you do. What do? We use specifically mainly social media in order to reach our families, our friends back home, either they're in Iraq, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and that's what we usually do. Social media is also a great influencer in terms of, you know, when it comes to fundraising. I know we have events that come up. There's an event coming up here as well on the 28th, if I'm not mistaken. And it's all over social media. And that's because of, you know, the power of social media and how we can use them. You know, also with social media, the importance of learning from one another is also good. A lot of times, there's statistics that shows that there's 75% of the times, close to 80% of the times, we get our news via social media. And that's good. You know, it's right there, you click on it and you have news shared with you in your own languages. It'd be English, Arabic, Farsi, Pashto. It helps you connect with different people, different professionals around the world, around the state, and different schools as well. Even if anybody is a home take mother, just for the sisters here, how many of you guys use social media when it comes to like cooking or when you guys want to learn something, right? Cooking, lectures, we use it for lectures, we use it for cooking. What else do we use it for? Anything else? It's fine, you don't have to share it if you don't want to. So, to get into social media and really talk about the effects of it, before that I just want to talk about the pros and then we can talk about the cons of social media. As some of you had stated, social media spreads information faster than any other media. I don't know if you guys knew this, but law enforcement uses social media in a way to get criminals as well. It helps them catch criminals that are, you know, that are out there. You know, when they're on social media, they post, they chat with others, and you know, that's one of the benefits that works for the government is that they're spying on you, which is not a good thing either because it's kind of a scary thing too, because it kind of tells us when you're using social media, not just law enforcement, but other people also use social media that are also spying on you, and that can be people in the community, people that, you know, that are stalking you, and it can become a very scary thing. And then also social media, it helps find work employment services. I don't know, nowadays, a lot of us, what we do is we usually reach out and we use the computer in order to find jobs. Nobody's taking resumes now. You're not going to go into a store or a company and you're going to say, you know what, I want to fill out a resume. It doesn't work that way. You have to do it through computer. And it also, social media, as we know, has changed big time in the political world. A lot of people are using social media to really facilitate, you know, political changes as well. Majority of the changes do come through social media because that's the best and the fastest way to reach out to different communities. Now I want to talk about some cons of what, you know, what social media can also affect and have upon us. But before I do that, what are some of the other positive things that you guys think that social media really helps us with? Do you guys know? Do you guys have anything else with social media? What it really helps us with? What is it? Email? Good. Email. You're able to communicate through email. Yeah, yeah. You're going to say something, brother? What is it? Online shopping, yes. You do online shopping too. Huh? Thank you. Wasting time. You waste time. Social media, you actually waste time. You know? What else? Amazon, yes, you get to buy things on Amazon. Updating news, like you're able to read the news and you're able to catch up with what's happening in the world, because a lot of times, majority of us really don't read anymore, or a lot of us don't take the time to sit down and get newspapers or sit on behind the computer. When we do, we don't actually go into, like, let's say New York Times or LA Times to read our news. We actually go through social media, where specifically like Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, they've created a filter where they're showing news all the time, consistently. So now let's switch to cons. What are some of the cons of using social media? Yes, sir. Procrastination. And why does that happen? You lose track of your own time. Just so you guys know, 10 to 11% of Americans are addicted to social media. That's really, you know, a person being, you know, that's on crack and cocaine. That's what it's saying. There's 10 to 11% of Americans. And you said, yes, it's procrastination. Also in that, a lot of times when a lot of the children are affected, and a lot of adults are affected too, because it breaks our concentration when we're at work. It affects us negatively, because a lot of times what ends up happening is that when we are using social media, we're so used to using it all the time, our concentration is never focused at work, at school. You're constantly looking at your snaps, your Facebook, and day to day you're just constantly looking at your snaps and your Facebook to see if you've got any likes, if you didn't get likes. What else? What are some of the other cons that we're seeing? Yes. News? So what kind of news though?
Like YouTube, when you make like YouTube
YouTube things?
videos?
Videos. So as long as you're making good videos, it's okay. But if you're watching something that's inappropriate, something that's, you know, nudity is there, if you're looking at something that's not for you or age appropriate, then that's something that's not good to watch. But if you're learning something through social media, if you're gaining something from social media, then it's good to use. Social media, like I said, one of the cons, I mean, it's something that is bad. So that is, it has lack of privacy. So a lot of you might think, you know what, social media is safe. Learn the fact, you know, to be true with you all, it's not really safe. All your information is out in the public. People can see. People will find ways to see. People will find ways to blackmail you. People will find ways to take your photo, your family's photo, your husband's photo, your wife's photo, and then create another account to destroy families too. So you always have to remember that as well. Also, this is something for the kids and for the students. Research shows that students who are heavily social media users tend to have lower grades. They averaged it out, and they said the average GPA for a person who is a user, they get roughly about a 3.0. Versus somebody who's a non-user, their average is 3.82. So that's a big jump. That's a really big jump. And other things, social media can attract people to waste time, like one of the brothers said. And that's actually 36% of people have stated that it's the biggest waste of time when it comes to using social media, is that you're wasting time, you're not learning anything, you're basically just scrolling down because you have nothing to do. And guess what, you're also addicted to it, so you have to remember that. Other causes of cons are using social media can harm job stability and employment perspectives as well. And what do I mean by that? That means that, you know, if you're on social media all the time, you have a way of texting or writing things. Your grammar will not help you, or the way you write in a professional setting will not help you. It will not help you in school, because instead of putting "be right back," there's times where I've seen it on papers that they've made it a lot shorter. What is it? BRB. So people are actually shortening it up when it comes to even professionalism. When you're texting somebody who's a professional, even at times they even forget that, you know, we have to use proper letters and not to shorten it up. Social media causes people to spend less time interacting face to face. And what usually happens, I want to ask every single one of you, when you have lack of interaction with one another, what ends up happening to us? Does anybody know? No? We fall into social isolation. And it's because with social media, we get so busy, we spend about 80% of the time is spent on us. And what we did, it's, you know, what we're doing this morning, I woke up, I'm about to brush my teeth, where you went, what you ate, who you're hanging out with, what are you doing currently. 80% of the times, people that use social media, it goes on that. Versus when you have a face-to-face interaction, you're using 40% of the time talking about yourself, but learning about others. So with compared to social media, it's much more important that you go out and you talk to one another than use social media and waste time. So I just want to talk about some key indicators of awareness for every single one of you. It causes lower and decreased self-esteem during or after using social media. When you're using social media, it causes low self-esteem. Do you guys know why that is, or an anxiety? What is it? Come here, guys. Why don't you guys sit in the front? I want to hear you. I can't hear you guys. Come on. Good job. Sit down. Sit right here. Or you want to come up? You forgot what you were going to say? Okay. So sit down and I'll ask the question again. So I said social media causes an anxiety, it lowers your self-esteem, and it causes depressive symptoms as well. So why is that? You're playing video games? You get an anxiety? Why do you get an anxiety when you play games though? Shouldn't that be a good thing? In self-esteem, because when you post things and people are not, you know, people dislike your photo or dislike the things that you're doing, it causes a lot of issues. I don't know if you guys know, but social media has become so addictive that we constantly focus on the likes, how many likes we're gonna get today. When we post something, who over here actually checks their social media and says, you know what, I'm gonna go and see how many people actually viewed it or liked it? How many people does that? I do it. Nobody? It's a normal thing. Everybody should do it. They should see, you know, how many likes and how many dislikes you have, and it's normal. But then again, you know, that's what social media does. Is it gets you addicted, and what gets you more addicted is that whenever you check your phone and you see a like, it causes the brain to release dopamine, and when that does that, it makes you feel good. Same way, for instance, if you're in school and you get a good grade, what do you guys do when you guys take an A grade to your parents? What ends up happening? What does your parents do? They're happy, yeah. So what happens to you? What do you feel? Good, you feel proud, you feel good. How about you? Proud? Okay, very good. So you feel good. The same way with social media, no matter you're a child, you're a teen, you're an adolescent, adult, kids, elders, we all have that in us. We're wired. It's a reward system that's wired in us. So every time we get a like or anytime when somebody actually even says something that is positive, we get happy. That is how social media is. And a lot of us are actually starting to rely on social media because of that. Because of the fact that when we post something, we have to find out, or every couple of minutes what ends up happening is your phone doesn't even buzz, but guess what? You look at your phone just to see if anybody called or not, right? Does that happen to anybody or not? Yeah. So it's becoming, it's actually, social media has actually taken over our brain. And the fact that it's causing us distraction when it comes to school, when it comes to work. And what are we doing at home? When we're going home, are we putting away our phones? Are we turning them off, or are we still keeping them on? We're keeping them on, right? Which is never a good thing. Which is never a good thing. We should have time. We should have certain times where we're able to use our phones, and then when we get home, we should be able to put it away or at least turn it off. So you had a question? What is it? Okay. So you said using social media or using social media, you can go blind. So you technically. Very close? Okay. So technically, you do not go blind when you use social media or when you watch TV, but your eye vision will decrease. And when that happens, when you have eye problems, so roughly 30 to 40% of the individuals in America are nearsighted. And that's because of social media and TV. And then what ends up happening is you start wearing this, what I have on. See, without this, I can't see anybody right now. I can't see anybody's faces. So, but you have to make time on how much social media, how much TV, and how much you should engage in the world and the community outside. If you think you may be addicted to social media, please take a moment and consider this. Do you feel your social media use has become compulsive, that you have to use it? How many people think that they have to use their social media? How many of you think it? Yes, sir. Huh? More than 40%? So you have to use your social media or your phone? There's a difference. Both of them? Okay. And why do you say it's 40%? Is it because you work, you promote things, or? Okay, promoting. But are you also looking at other promotional things? Sometimes? But is motivate? Okay. Okay, thank you. It kills, especially for young people? Okay. Do you have any suggestions for any young people?
Yeah, I think that's great times, communication, social media, rest, and to read, because so many guys saying social media, and no control on social media.
There's no control on social media, but okay, thank you. So I'm gonna go over what can be done or what can we do as parents and as children. How can we work together as a team? This is a team effort and work. It's not a one-sided thing where, the parents, there's times where parents don't have time, or they don't put the effort to check their kids' social media. They don't look to see what are they doing in social media. There's times where I've seen parents that actually do the opposite. They're more involved in social media and they don't give time to their kids. And it's true. And it's true, and it happens. And it's sad to say, but it happens. So other things, do you find it difficult not to engage in social media when you don't really want to? Does it get hard or not? Or do you ever become angry? Do you ever become agitated, negatively or emotionally, physically affected when you cut back on any of the social media platforms? That causes us an anxiety, like I said. When you cut down, your body is going to react for the first couple of days or couple of hours when you cut down on social media. Because we're so used to it, and like I told you, your brain is so wired, and that dopamine is there. So it's wired to look at your phone every other minute. Sometimes you might think it's your phone is buzzing, but guess what? It's not. Your leg's probably itching. That's what it is. So how can you curb social media's addiction? Here, now that you have committed to making a change, what you can do is reach out and log off. Has anybody tried logging off? Try to log off your phone and see how that works out. as a family though. You can do it as an individual, but try to do it as a family. Because a lot of times, a lot of families that come together, that come home, what they usually do is one person is on the phone, the other one's just sitting there watching TV. We don't get much time with our families, or we don't spend much time with our friends or anybody that's close to us, because we're so attached to social media. That's the first thing that we are always attached to, instead of actually making time for other human beings and other people. So please try to turn off the phones and see how that works out for you. Tune up your mind and body. That, like I said, go away from it. And you have to give your body a couple of days to adjust. It's just a routine you have to go through. By turning off your phone, or what you can do is you can put it away. You can grab, for instance, you can go inside the house and you can tell your family that once you come from school, once you come from work, we're all gonna put the phones away, and we're gonna put it somewhere where nobody can reach it till later the day or tomorrow. You can also set firm boundaries, set limits. Okay, you know what? Today I'm gonna use this many hours of social media. If your work revolves around social media, then you have to use social media. But if it doesn't, if you're there just for fun and wasting time, and you're not reading your book, if you're not going to the masjid, if you're not, it distracts you from prayers, if you're on your prayers and your mind's thinking of something that's much, totally different, I can't wait till I go see or read somebody's Snapchat, something that I posted, I can't wait to do that. It messes up your whole day, and it just messes up the purpose of, your brain functioning with Allah and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So remember that, set firm boundaries when you're using social media. And also get support. A lot of times what I mean by that is that you're not alone. It's nothing that is too harmful, but at the same time, it keeps you socially isolated from the community, from your family, from your friends, and everybody that's around you. So remember, social media, it's good if you use it based on limits and limitations, but if you use it more or less, it will harm you, and it will harm you in the long term. Because then you'll lose your friends, you lose your family, because they won't spend time with you. What you'll end up doing is you'll lose your children if your parents that are constantly on your phone. And guess what? And then you're constantly using your phone, and you don't give your children time when they're little. As they get older, they're not going to spend more time with you. They're going to get older so quickly where it would be right in front of your eyes, like you wouldn't even know. So when they do get older, guess what? They're not going to have time for you. Your kids are just not going to have time for you, because they're going to be too busy with life responsibilities. So even as parents, please try your best to have limits set for social media and the usage of it. And then for our little ones, remember, it doesn't help when it comes time for school, for your exams, before you go to bed. It's always important that you guys turn off your social media, your iPads, your telephones, and grab a book to read. Because research has also shown that social media destroys your long-term memory, and it affects it too. Because first, whenever an individual reads or tries to remember something, for instance, for a test, if you're reading a book, what ends up happening is that stores in your short-term memory, and then with time, it transfers to your long-term memory. But if you're if you're somebody who's using social media constantly, and guess what? When you're reading something, every 2 minutes you grab your phone, every 2 minutes, and you're distracted. It's not going to help you, and that will hurt you, and it will hurt your brain as well. It's not healthy for the brain. We want to be able to build it. You want to be able to build it. So for that, you have to remember that you have to set limits, and you have to do things that are according to good timing. And then same thing goes to people that, supporting others whom mental health is suffering due to social media. Some people, they just can't get out of it. And the best thing is to be there for them and give them some tools and techniques on how to really make boundaries and set boundaries, so you can better help associate and affect those things for them. And then now, we want to talk about how to keep kids informed and aware and safe on social media. As parents and guardians, you can help to ensure your kids to stay safe and be able to show them that that social media deals by what can you do and what can be done. That's being able to discuss the risks and possible effects of social media with them. And what I mean by that is it's important to talk to your children about the risk factors of what and how social media affects the child, the brain, and how that can also affect them in the long term. And then be honest with your kid. When you are talking about social media, make sure you're not just doing it because it's your child and you can use the phone from this time to this time, or you can use social media because of this A, B, and C, but then you're doing the same thing. Make sure you guys are on the same page, because whatever you do, your child's gonna mimic you. They're gonna see and they're gonna do the same thing. So if you're not doing something which is not, which something that that is not there. Oh, thank you so much. Sorry about that, my throat's. I was on a 2-hour drive. So if your child is, for instance, if they mimic you, they're not gonna follow your rules. And as parents too, you have to remember, it can't be just everything can't be on the mother. I know as fathers we're always working outside, we're doing things out of the home, and then usually the mothers are usually taking care of the kids. Sometimes it's vice versa. Sometimes the fathers take care of the kids more, or they have more, they take more responsibilities for the children. So remember that even as parents, both parties have to be on the same page. So a mother is telling the child, you can't use social media. I'm gonna put a lock on certain games, on certain things after this time. But then your husband is actually using social media, and your child looks at you and says, you know what, daddy's doing it. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna use social media. And that's what ends up happening, is because then they see another authority figure that's actually using social media, and then the child's just gonna follow that. Yes? It's a what? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an influence. So tell me more about it. So if your parents are doing it, why do you want to do it then? Why do you want to try it? Good. Did you guys hear him? Whoever's child is, I love this child. He said that, so he said, whatever our parents do, they tell us to do it like me. So, and we usually do that. Parents actually do tell their kids, to model them, as a role model. And your kids you guys are your child's role models, your grandkids' role models. So yeah, that's a good example. Whatever your parents tell you, when they say, do what I do, you start following that. Yeah, and you can't say no to it, so you have to follow it. Yes? Speak up a little bit louder. Sorry. If you want to tell me, you can come up and tell me in my ear. So you follow your parents because they always do the right thing? Okay. How many people think that? How many parents are right and whatever you say, it goes? Good. Yeah. A lot of times parents, as parents, like I said, this is not a one-road thing. This is a two-road block where both parents and the child has to work together. It doesn't work one way. It's like being in a relationship. Like when you get old, for two parents, it doesn't work one way where the husband's putting all the effort and the wife's not, or the wife's putting all the effort and then the husband's not. It doesn't work out that way. Same thing with children. They understand. You guys understand, right? Whenever the parents say things, you guys are smart people. You guys have your own mind. You have to make great decisions. You have to acknowledge that. We have to acknowledge that, and we have to be on the same page, and we have to let them know when we do things, we have to do it as a family, and it's healthier, it's safer, and it works really well. Please try it. Please try it. Yes, you have to monitor them, but make sure that when you are monitoring them, you have to also be a role model to them by actually setting good examples. The other thing was having positive discussions as well. always have positive discussions with your children, not to have negative discussions. I know social media is also a platform for a lot of people, especially for the sisters and the girls when it comes to image, body image. That's really something, you know, our social media has portrayed it, you know, in order to look pretty, in order to look good, you have to look a certain way. In reality, it's not real. It's not real. The people that do look a certain way use a lot of, put a lot of things that are very harmful to their bodies. They use a lot of makeup, and trust me when I say this, especially for the girls and for the females, we as human beings, when my wife puts on makeup, it's just one person putting on makeup for herself. When you see something on Snapchat or Instagram and they're famous, they've got a team of 6 people putting stuff on for them. One person working on their hair, one person working on their eye, one person working on their lips. So remember, you have to know this. It's an image that is not real. Yes? Okay. Oh, they do. Which is good. So he said his teacher had told him that, you know, a lot of people they do plastic surgery. And it's true. A lot of people on social media do use plastic surgery to look good and to look young. They use, you know, a lot of makeup, as we stated, and they have filters that make them look a lot prettier or greater. So please be careful with that too. And then also, it's also important that you, as parents, can also go to schools. You guys can work, you know, with their schools, with the administrations, local, national organizations, communities as well, you know, to be able to monitor, you know, what your child or your children are doing. Because as parents, a lot of parents are actually afraid, you know, that live here in America. They're actually afraid of their, some of them are afraid of their children because of legal cases, you know. The child might call, you know, CPS, and they might make a report, and this happened with one family, this is gonna happen to my family, I have to be careful because of this. No, it doesn't work that way. It's not easy, is that. You are the parents, you have to take charge, and it's, you know, it doesn't work that way where you're actually gonna go in and you're gonna tell your parents, I'm gonna do this because of ABC, and you can't do anything about it. Well, just for those youngsters, if you guys hear anybody in the community that says, if your parents are being mean to you, or if your parents tell you what to do, you have the right not to do anything, they're not giving you good advice. You know, they're not giving you good advice. Just remember that. Always listen to your parents, listen to the people in the community. When you come to the masjid, please listen to your elders. It's always good and respectful, and you guys will learn a lot from them. And then lastly, like I said, tell them exactly what course of action to take and how to tell them. Be collective, be in a safe environment, and tell them as a group that social media and how much time we can use as a family on a daily basis, and what can we do to use them together. Do you guys have any questions? Questions? Yes. Address the the effects of social media. Phone. Yeah. So on average, the studies have showed that you have to give at least 2 to 3 hours prior to going to bed, not to use any form of social media or even your phone, having your phone by you. It's not helpful. And not just that, studies have shown that if you are using your phone, you don't go to your deepest sleep. Your brain doesn't really go into your deepest sleep that actually is your last stage of sleep. I think it's the fourth stage, right? I'm not. It's the fourth stage, and when you don't go to your fourth stage of sleep, what ends up happening is research has shown that it causes Alzheimer's. It causes Alzheimer's and dementia, So it disrupts with your brain. So remember, you have to be sleeping 7 to 8 hours on a daily basis, especially for those that are going to school. Be in bed by 9:30. You have to be in bed, and do not use any cell phones after 6, 7 o'clock. I would say cut it after 7. Don't use don't try not watching any TV, use any computers, iPads, cell phones. The best thing to do is to read. It's the easiest and the best thing to do for you guys is to grab a book and read, and it's really good for your brain and it's really healthy for your brain as well. Any other questions you guys have? Yes, sir. Yeah. Yes. So what you can do is, with parental rights, is that you have the right as parents to take away your child's phone, and you can always put locks. You can always lock certain things, certain apps, on a child's cell phone, on a child's app or applications that they're using in their cell phones. A lot of us have access to things that parents don't know about. There's certain things that I remember with my younger sibling, who's 13 now. She knows more than I do, and we had to put a lock on her phone. And that's because as parents, we don't know what's out there in the community. We don't know what's out in social media, and it's dangerous because it causes a lot of problems. And a lot of us are too busy. We don't give time to kids. Let alone kids, we don't give time to ourselves. On a daily basis, we get up, we're up by 5:30. We do our prayers, we take our showers, we go to work. Work starts at 7, 8. If you're working business hours, you're working till 5, 6. You come home. You have to see when you come home, you have to see if there's any food in the fridge. You have to go do grocery shopping. You have to cook food. By the time you do that, one parent is cooking food, the other parent is probably sitting down and doing homework with their children, or helping them out at that part, or taking a look at any homework that they have. And then once that's taken care of, that's done, what ends up happening is a lot of parents that do majority of the time is that they watch TV. They're always watching TV instead of being more involved with kids and families. And like I said, for parents, it's important that you guys take into consideration your children's phones and cell phones, and please put a lock on certain games or apps. After a certain time, you can go in and you can unlock it for them. Because if they continuously use the same app or use social media, it causes addiction, and it causes them to have low self-esteem, because then they picture something that's really unrealistic. They have a picture of something that's really unrealistic, and tomorrow they'll post things on social media trying to be like somebody else that they're not. Or even as adults, we try to be like somebody that we're not, and we always have that image of this person is so successful, he's doing this, he's doing that. Well, guess what? Your talent is probably somewhere else, not at social media. So you have to weigh the balance, the right balance. Yes? Huh? What's low self-esteem? Can somebody help us out? What's low self-esteem, guys? Does anybody know? How you think about yourself? Okay, in what way? Yes, good, very good. Yeah, how much confidence you have in yourself. So if you're using social media, whoever's child is, I love this guy. Smart kid, mashallah. So yes, how much confidence do you have in yourself? What social media does is that when you're using social media, you're always looking for likes, dislikes, mainly likes. How many people are going to like my photos? How many people are going to say good comments? How many viewers am I going to get? But if you're getting the opposite, if somebody's making fun of you, if somebody's calling you names, if somebody's saying, you know what, somebody's not liking your pictures, what ends up happening is you compare yourself to other people as well. And when you do that, you start having low self-esteem. And that causes you to have less confidence, and it keeps you away from people as well, because you have never spoken to anybody outside of social media, and it becomes very difficult when it comes speaking to somebody else in the community. Any other questions, guys? Yes. What is it? Fortnite? Oh, I don't know what game that is. You have to tell me. It's a bad game. It's a So my question here is if it's a bad game, how bad are we talking about? Is it bad that it's just graphic like blood, or is it bad because there's nudity? And then what is it? I don't know the game. That's the thing. I don't. Do you know what I play? I'll tell you. I play video games too. I have a PS4 and I play sport games all the time. Does any parents know about this game? Anybody? Anybody know about this game? Just you guys? Okay, how about this? How about every single one of you that are here maybe teach your parents about the game or talk to them about the game and what that is, and see what their opinion is. And if they think it's bad, then it's bad. If they don't think it's bad, then it's not bad. Yes, sister. Yes, thank you. Same thing when it comes to low self-esteem and people having depressive symptoms. One of the other factors that we usually forget is the fact that people in school, outside of school, are actually cyberbullied too. When it comes to social media, there's a lot of hate messages being sent. Threatening messages being sent to kids, students, even as much as you're ugly, you're fat, and it causes a lot of issues for that child. And for that child, it becomes difficult because it causes them to have low self-esteem. They're not going out to the community. That they won't go out and they won't go out and hang out with more kids. Bless you. They won't go out and socialize in groups. They won't come to like family gatherings unless they're told to come. So it becomes very difficult for children who actually do face cyberbullying. So if you are actually getting text messages or messages from people that actually say, or even it can be your friend or somebody that you don't know and is telling you like, you're ugly, you're this, and it's something that you don't like, block him, please. Block him and move away from him. And that's, and tell your parents. Always tell your parents, please. Any other questions? Social media? Yes?
So you're kind of avoiding what I asked, but what was your opinion?
What is my opinion? I don't know the game. Huh? I don't have Wi-Fi. It takes, I have to play the game too then. Huh? Okay, how about this? How about I watch it and I come again, Sunaveen, and I'll address the same topic about video games. And then we'll go through every single one of your phones and see what games to play and what games not to play. How about that?
But my question is, when you think about it,
If it's something that's not causing you, if it's not causing you any difficulties, for instance, if you're not using it 24/7, if you're not getting bad grades in school, if you're always at home and you're not going out and playing with your friends, and if it's something that that you're doing all day long and playing that game more than at least 30 minutes a day, well, guess what? I think I would say it's not a good game then. Yes. Let me take this question. Uh-huh. FaceTiming is okay. You can FaceTime people. What I'm saying is that when you use social media and you don't FaceTime people, or if it's because you're posting things on social media, when you post things on social media, you're really not talking to anybody. You're just getting likes and you're waiting for people to like your picture or like what you have posted it. But when you're talking to somebody face to face, that's okay. That's okay to use. But I would rather have you not focus too much on posting things on social media, because then your brain gets triggered. And like I said, dopamine, you're waiting for that like, for that one click or for that one like from somebody else, from a friend, that will release the dopamine, which makes you feel good. When somebody likes your post, you're gonna feel good. And you want more people to start liking your posts. So as long as you're not doing a lot of posting and you're not focused on posting, you can post, but just stay away from it. Stay away from the fact that, you know, every 2 seconds somebody likes your picture and you have to see who's liking your picture. But go ahead, you can FaceTime somebody during the Skype. Yeah. Is it a serious question, or are you giving the same question? Okay. Opinion on YouTube? It's fine. You can use YouTube. How many hours do you use YouTube for? Huh? I use YouTube when I need to. For instance, I have to come out, and when I do any lectures, or when I have to talk, or when I give any videos, or have to show somebody videos, it's educational videos, then I use YouTube for it. And it's good to do a lot of Islamic studies. For those that have a hard time understanding, you know, reading books, YouTube is a good way to actually follow sheikhs, lecturers, mentors, and learn from them. And yeah, as long as you're using it that way, it's really good. Anybody else? Yes, sir. Yeah. I'm sorry. The age limit? Uh-huh. Good for you. Good for. No. How is she how is she socially with people? Is she how is she? When you guys are at home, is she you start? Well, that's. And do you guys spend more time with yourself, or when you guys, well, if you guys don't have social media, that means that your daughter is not using, she's not on social media while she's with you. She's talking to you, or you guys are doing something that's interactive. That's beautiful. Yeah. Tell their 18 that you're the parents, you're the boss. You get to choose what you want to do. As parents, tell your kids 18, you get to tell them you're the boss of the house, not your children. So remember that. Like I said earlier, a lot of us are very scared of children and say, you know what, my child's gonna, you know, what things that they learn outside from their friends, they bring it home and they use it upon you. And you get scared. You're like, oh, this person got in trouble, they're in court. It doesn't work like that. Don't be afraid. Your child is there. They can say what they want, and you let them say what they want. It's not going to affect anybody in any way. So you're the boss, not your children. Yeah. Alrighty, so yes. So I'll take the last question, yes. Yeah. So, you know what, I haven't had research on that, but I know a lot of people are affected by that. It's actually not a good thing, especially the video gamers. They go through a lot of stress. I have to get back to you on that, but I know it's really bad. I was actually talking to somebody about this too. Would you work, if you were to have a choice, would you be a gamer, or would you work at, at the workplaces where you want to work at? And a lot of people, they're gamers, yeah, and it's not good for your health. Oh no, it's not good for your health at all. Not at all. Not at all. So are we good then? Just want to thank every single one of you for for being here, for taking the time. I know it's a Friday night. I know a lot of you must want to do other things. I know for the kids, you guys probably don't want to come. I know for the parents, thank you for putting the time and the effort. And for the little ones, you guys that want to be here, good job. And it's really good. You guys should continue to come. And then to say we are having, even at Access California Services, we have a table outside. If you guys want any resources, please stop by. We provide ESL classes, citizenship classes, immigration services. I oversee the mental health department, so we provide parenting, counseling, and then to finish off, we're having a mental health conference coming up on April 29th of this month. So if you're interested, it's a family event. It's the same way. We're providing childcare. Food is covered, and our speakers are going to be Sheikh Yasser Fazaqa. It's going to be Dr. Marwa Azab and Dr. Anis Nader. She's coming from Arizona. So if you guys want if you guys want to go to our informational event, please join us. And it'll be really good for the families, and it'll teach you how to also enhance your parenting skills as well. So that's it about it for tonight. So if you guys have questions, please ask me privately. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much.